The next session is the segment is Thai Women session. The topic is going to be Thinking Beyond Boundaries, Building a Multi-Hued Career. And I invite Mrs. Sapnoor George, Executive Director, Trivandrum International School, Prince Group of Institutions. Sapnoor, warm welcome. And the speaker for this session is Mrs. Divya Krishnan, Independent Consultant, Board Director, Bandhan Bank and Repro India. Over to you, Sapnoor.
Yeah, so thinking beyond boundaries and building multi-hued careers. This is something that I have personally experienced and feel very strongly about. So I'm happy to be on this panel and have Divya with us today. And we live in an age where careers are not linear at all. And they are very diverse, they are dynamic, they are constantly evolving. And it's because of the kind of experiences that we keep having through the course of our professional journey. And because it is this layered, we have a very, very strong trend right now. As per LinkedIn's Workplace Trends report from last year, 80%, 79 to be precise, percent of Indian professionals change not just their jobs, but their sector itself. That's a complete shift in the sector that they work in. That's 4 out of 5 people in India right now want to change the sector that they work in. And this is really interesting, and if we go into thinking why employees want to make such a drastic shift at various points in their career, one is they want to feel aligned. They want the job to feel aligned to their skills, to their personal value systems, and to their sense of curiosity. So this shift is very, very reflective of that kind of thinking, which is probably now more than ever. And so it's definitely very, very deliberate and very strategic in nature and not at all accidental. So there was a survey, Manpower Group survey this year, which talked about the sectors that have the most number of cross-disciplinary hires. And the sectors that stood out on top, it's obviously not exhaustive, there were many other sectors, but the ones that stood out on top were energy, finance, IT, healthcare, and automotive. So obviously, I mean, they are not narrow industries, and they need the help of so many other cross-disciplinary functions. Energy needs data analysts and behavioral scientists. Finance needs sustainability specialists. Tech needs designers, psychologists, and ethicists. Healthcare needs technologists and researchers, and every sector is basically merging with one another and transforming in that sense. And for all of that, they need people who can cross boundaries, who can think out of the box, out of that vertical academic pedigree that they have been trained in, and basically people with multi-hued careers. So it's not just the individual aspirations, but even from a sector point of view, there is a definite need for this. And this shift obviously begins very early on, right, from universities and schools. Now in India, we have over 150 universities that offer cross-disciplinary options for our students. So basically, they can take humanities with data science, psychology with business, design with technology, social sciences with environmental studies, and so on. So it's a very flexible, versatile option that students require now. There are options like Ashoka, Kriya, Azim Premji University, one of many, which offers these kind of options for students, which opens up avenues for them, allows them to explore options even later on in their career. And some of the interdisciplinary modules that are embedded in their academic programs are research, design thinking, coding, behavioral economics, sustainability, entrepreneurship. These are all not sector specific, and colleges are going out of their way to make sure that there are subjects like this that are part of the academic programs across courses. Schools as well, this is something I know personally. International curricula really focuses, like International Baccalaureate and Cambridge, focuses on transdisciplinarity, where students are not just focusing on subjects, but they need to be able to make connections. And as they go into higher grades, you know, there are subjects like global perspectives and things where they need to be able to have research skills, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and the focus is on understanding what approaches you employ to learn. How do you learn? And using that to your advantage. So it's more skill-based than content. So that is the kind of skill that is required for students to be able to eventually be adaptable and cross sectors and have these multi-hued careers that we're talking about. And the earlier you're exposed to that, the easier it becomes. The more flexible, the more adaptable, and the more resilient you become as well. So, and the national education policy supports this as well. So this is going to come across Indian curricula. So very much aligning with the reality of the workplace and the demands from the different sectors, that we train our children for not just one job, but for the many possibilities that lie ahead of them. Organizations are changing as well. They want employees that don't want, or rather employees don't want static roles, and they want evolving journeys. There are structured practices like succession planning as well as employee development. So I was at another charter member, Mr. Alex, who's sitting right here. I was at UST the other day, and they were talking about their Colors program for employees, which is basically giving them avenues for accelerated leadership, mentorship, skill development, and just better engagement in areas outside of their regular work. And this really gives them not just a sense of ownership, but they're able to, you know, contribute that much more meaningfully, stay longer, and really build richer careers. And there is data to support this. Gallup finds that highly engaged teams have 43% of a lower attrition, and companies with a strong succession plan have a 50% retention increase over companies that don't. So these are all, I mean, you don't need this data to know this, but when these things are deliberately put into the structure of the HR practices of a company, it makes a big difference, because multi-hued career is not just about changing careers, but it's also about when you're in a career, you may want to have other avenues that you want to explore as well, and that is what sectors demand, and that is what organizations will need to keep up with as well. So this isn't unconventional anymore, it is definitely the new normal. To speak more about this, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Ms. Divya Krishnan, who is in the finance and investment banking sector with an experience of over 3 decades. She was the youngest ever chief investment officer at SBI Mutual Fund, which is India's largest mutual fund. She has held board positions at Repro India and Bandhan Bank, and currently is a visiting faculty at Ashoka University. She has worked on improving education in government schools, empowering teachers, and supporting organizations for the hearing and visually impaired, as well as underprivileged girl children. So you can see how I have moved from finance to the social sector. A former member of Kerala's Working Group on Disabilities for the 12th Five-Year Plan, she has also served as scholar in residence at a leading US university, mentoring students engaged in development work in India. An alumna of IIM Ahmedabad, Shriram and Lamatnia's Ms. Divya exemplifies leadership that bridges corporate excellence with social impact. Over to you.
Thank you, Sapnu. Can I be heard? Can I be heard? Can I see some thumbs up? Great. So Sapnu's really set the stage. She's already covered a lot of what I intend to talk about, which is really this concept. When I started out my career, and I think that must be true for many of you, I was told, choose your path, be consistent, stay the course, you know, especially as a woman. Most of this advice is, of course, unsolicited, as I'm sure it is for many of you. What if a career was not a path, but a palette? And you can see these wild colors. You can choose whatever colors you want to paint your career with and really choose your own course. This concept of a career as a painting rather than a linear line that you follow is not something that's come about out of nowhere. It's really come from looking at how the workplace for women has transformed over the years. And that has had true meaning, not just for women. It's something that's applicable across the board now for all genders, regardless of whether you're male, female, other. It really is applicable to us today. And what I'd like to do is just very quickly take you through how the workplace has transformed for women from, times to come. So, human civilization is 10,000 years old. It's 10,000 years of stories, social structures, norms. And much of that time, women have been seen as caregivers. Women have seen as people who need to be at home to look after the children. And it's only about 100 years ago that a reasonable number of women started emerging from this shell of just being at home. But still, the careers that were followed, in the early 20th century, we had teachers, we had nurses, eventually doctors. But the idea was still that women were the nurturing group. Among humans, you had the men who went out to work, earn money for the family, and it was women who needed to look after the home. We moved on from there to the late 20th century. And the late 20th century saw a change. We saw some women at least coming up to the table, getting a place at the table, actually getting recognition, achieving distinction, having brilliant careers in their own right. But we do have, it was pretty much an all or nothing. You had to either be totally committed to your career, so, put your families aside, move on, just focus on your career, do the thing that I was told, which I didn't do, which is be consistent, stay the course. And a lot of women have achieved success in this. But it was, it would come to a stage when, for many of us, it would come to a stage when you would find that you either had to be very serious about your career or you had to actually put it aside for some time or for maybe all time to come. It was pretty much an all or nothing kind of choice. We are today, these options still continue. The nurturing, teacher, nurse, doctor, and these are fulfilling careers in their own right. Just last week I attended a book launch by a very good friend, Kairunisa, in Trivandrum, and she's been a very, very popular professor in her college, very loved by her students, and now she's a very successful writer of children's books. We had the all or nothing model of the late 20th century. We still have that, but we do have women, even people at the fore like Indira Nooyi, who've talked about the creeping non-choice, when you have decisions literally thrust upon you, because there's a point where you reach where you don't have really a choice. You have to just put your head down and keep going. But today, in the last 10, 20 years, we've seen a dramatic change. And that's, a lot of it has been led by women because of the kind of demands that our lives call upon us. It's not true that it doesn't happen for men as well, but the path has been set for women, by women, and that's something that can, that's opened up possibilities for all of us today. So you have plural, multidimensional careers. You can choose whether to work full-time, whether to work half-time, you can work a gig, Shankar talked about the gig economy earlier today. Almost 40% of the US workforce is engaged in the gig economy. So it's not a question of, I have to be full-time, I have to be totally committed to my career from day one through the day that I retire. There are these choices which are available to us which were not available earlier. I just want to give the context of, I'm speaking of this from a little bit of my own experience. My own career has been a bit of a zigzag. I started out life as an asset manager, newly minted MBA, all excited about the workplace. I joined SBI Mutual Fund, and this was post the Harshad Mehta debacle, just immediately after that. But life was very exciting, and the capital markets were pretty much like the Wild West. We had promoters who would, talk about, oh, what's the problem with my investing in this company from the funds from this company? It's just like taking money out of this pocket and putting it into the other. So we had to actually educate promoters that the value that they would get from their companies would be far more if they actually put their heads down and made sure that the companies that they were working with achieve their true value. And investors would recognize that, and that would in turn lead to huge amount of wealth creation. Things like risk management did not exist. People thought, if you have to manage, as a mutual fund, you're expected to have a portfolio of investments which balance out the risks. But what it meant for most funds at that time, when I first joined, I saw, oh, my fund has like 150 odd stocks. That's not what portfolio risk management is about. So introducing those concepts, actually, from things that I had learned as an MBA and, just read up a lot more, talked to a lot of people, those were really, really exciting times. I want to just dwell a little bit on my foray into entrepreneurship. I had actually forgotten that I did this. This was for about 6-9 months of my life. Suddenly decided, not suddenly, this was the late 90s, the huge dot-com boom that was happening, and everybody wanted to set up their own dot-com, and we were not far behind. So a group of friends and I, we decided that we would set up and own EdTech. This is well before Baiju and its strange failures and so on. We won't go there. But so I was the only one in that group who actually had leave at the time. And this was my maternity leave. Not the best time to do this, but it was so exciting because I was pitching to, since I was on leave, I could actually work on the pitch document and, focus on that, whereas we had some people in the background who were working on the tech side and trying to do the proof of concept. So here we were pitching to people like, we actually joined up a competition where there were hundreds of companies in the, in for winning the contest. And we were pitching to people like Raja and Ranjit, the much older versions, obviously. And we found that, we actually reached the last 3. And this was the time when we were actually going to ask for funds. But I got the offer from my fund at that point. They said, Divya, we need you, come back. We need you to head the investments. So I went back. And the next point, really, life was good. It looked really nice. But I started to ask myself some questions about purpose. And it's not something that came out of nowhere. It's always been there with me from the beginning of my career. But it became a deeper question for me. And I just decided to resign. So that was, a bit of a shock because, especially for my parents, my mom said, Divya, if you're tired, just go take a nap. Just go take a nap. Don't quit your job. Don't waste your education. But it gave me time to reflect. It gave me time to think about what was important to me. And, along with being a homemaker, almost immediately I started volunteering at non-profits. I was a volunteer. I wanted to get my hands in the real work as I saw it. But I realized that as a volunteer, I was just another volunteer. So to really make change happen, to have impact, I realized I needed to use my managerial skills, management skills, and that's how I ventured into becoming a consultant to nonprofits. That kind of set up the stage for me to become a professor at Ashoka. Jiva Matthew, who used to work with me at Ashoka, used to assist me in my classes. So he's here. So it was, being a professor also, I'm not an academic. So at every stage, there have been changes for me. I'm not an academic. I was told you can design your own curriculum. And I did not want to teach from a textbook because I knew that the textbooks that I had studied from meant very little in the real world. So I decided I needed to build a foundation for my students and at the same time give them real world experience. And so it's been really rewarding for me because I still have students who come back to me today and tell me, ma'am, they don't call me ma'am, they call me prof. Prof, your course really opened up my eyes to what finance can be about. And that's why I'm choosing to go into finance, so that's why I'm choosing to become an MBA. So, you know, I came back to being from the consultant to non-profit. I've been an advisor and coach to other non-profits more seriously, and then moved on to board roles. But before you actually, you know, jump up and say, we can achieve our dream, it's all very well to say that, right? I mean, if you follow America and what they stand for, it says, follow your dream and you can accomplish anything. But that's not really true. You need to build your bedrock. For me, so you need to build your core skills on which you can draw upon, you can call upon whenever you need to as you move from one career to another. So I have a lot of people here now, both men and women. Have there been times in your careers where you've actually asked yourself, I want to actually change my career? Can I see a show of hands of people who actually wanted to change their careers but maybe did not? That's quite a small number. It's exciting that people really have been, focused on their careers. And another show of hands of people who've been very happy with staying the course, being on the path that they've been started on. Great. So I guess some of the others are kind of in between. So we have a mix of people. I mean, it works for some people you need something a little different. So what's happened now is that we have those choices available to us. And those choices, the underpinnings are firstly building your bedrock, your foundation. Like I said, for me, it was my MBA. It was building my core financial skills. I worked for nearly 10 years. And I continue to keep in touch. It's not that I lost touch of my area. I think we have to do that. One of these earlier speakers actually talked about taking responsibility for your own learning. If I'm not mistaken, I'm again referring to Shankar's speech. And that's something that, that we really need to dwell on, that we really need to work on. Because if you want to choose your own career path, you have to build your base. But at the same time, I'm also thinking of what Bala said last night. Bala Gopal, who's the chairman of KSIDC, in his post-felicitation speech, he actually said that, detours and changes can be very, very promising. And that's something that we have to also accept, that if we have the ability to change, that's something that can really add a spike to our own lives. And this final line, do what you can with what you have, where you are, it really is like a mantra to me. It's not just a quotation pulled out of somewhere. Really, you can make things happen with what you have. You just have to have the confidence that you can do it. And that's something that I would encourage every one of you here, men, women, no children here. Oh, there is a child as well. So you can do what you want to do. You just have to make sure of these three things, that you have to build your bedrock, you have to build your foundations, make sure you have that core strength on which you can rely upon. These are skills, they're not knowledge. These are transferable. You have to have the ability and adaptability to be able to change. And lastly, try and make the best of what you can. Thank you.
I didn't know that you were an entrepreneur. So I know Divya also as a parent of our school. I knew all the other parts that she spoke about and it was all there in her bio, but she was also an entrepreneur, which was, I think, one of your most exciting detours that you took.
Actually, every one of them has been very exciting.
But I'm glad you brought it up because Thai Women is also the vertical in Thai that supports women-led startups. And we have a global pitch competition for that as well. It's there every year. I have been chair for the last couple of years, and it's been really nice to see what women have come up with. But you mentioned something that, women especially are told to follow that straight path, which I find extremely ironic because if anyone has a non-linear path, in terms of, the month or biology or childbearing, if you look at it in any which way, it is not possible to stay the course, and do exactly the same thing from beginning to end. And that seems like an unrealistic expectation, especially for all women. And I'm glad that your parents gave you that time to pause, to reflect, to change course and deviate, right, in the best way possible.
I think I had to grab that myself. I don't think people were very supportive at the time. There was a lot of questioning. So you have to have the strength of conviction that, I need to take time, because there are times in our lives when we want to sprint, and there are other times when we want to pause and reflect. And we have to give ourselves the space to be able to do so. And what I find really exciting at this is that this is not true just of women today. This is something that's happening for men as well. So we have friends who've chosen, the father, classmates of ours from Ahmedabad, who've chosen to be stay-at-home dads for a few years to see their children through their first initial growth, and then they've come back to the workplace. And I think the possibilities are tremendous. We just have to reach out and grab them.
Wonderful. And, when we talk about deviations and detours in our careers, I wish we didn't call it that because that's supposed to be something you shouldn't do. But sometimes those experiences turn out to be the most pivotal and where you're able to contribute the most in the next sector that you join, because that will be your perspective and yours alone because of the experiences that you bring with you to the table, as opposed to someone who has been in that vertical.
You're so right, Sapnu. And I'm just thinking of that stint that I had as an entrepreneur where I didn't follow through. But some of those skills that I learned at that time, they stayed with me, and I used them maybe 10 years later or 15 years later when I was a professor at Ashoka, and we had an entrepreneurship department. And, just nurturing that entrepreneurial mindset, that's something that stayed with me and something I was able to draw upon years later. You're very right. We call upon these skills much later in our lives as well.
I've had it in reverse. My background was architecture, so I feel like I brought design and detail into education and entrepreneurship. So it was in reverse, but you will always pick up skills from where you come, and you will find a place to integrate it and to incorporate it into where you're presently. But yeah, I hope that the one thing that we can take away from today is to stay curious and use that to lead you and stretch you and surprise you also, because you never know where life might take you and what you might end up liking, and even that might change through different stages of your own life. But whatever experiences, whatever depth and resilience you bring with you from your past experiences can only add to your own uniqueness and make you that much more powerful and unique into your next sector. So I feel like multi-hued careers are definitely the new normal, and wishing all of us luck to keep staying curious. Thank you, Divya. Thank you so much.
Life is not about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. Thank you very much, Mrs. Divya Krishnan and Sapnu George, for a wonderful session. I invite Ms. Sheenu Jhawar, Member, Board of Trustees, Thai Global, and Director of Apex Hospital, Rajasthan, to hand over the memento to Mrs. Divya Krishnan.